I'm looking over it. But
Yeah.
doesn't always work that way. Oh, we're live, so we're just talking about our screen setups. That's boring conversation, but it's interesting to us. So how are we, gents? Thursday night, welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
2 times in a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels a bit weird, to be honest, but yeah, no. The more we can get out, the better, I think, for everyone. So.
Yeah, definitely. I just felt the last couple of shows, for whatever reasons, we just weren't able to get to the viewer question, which is an important part of the show, the engagement from the audience. We always like the questions coming from the listeners. So I thought it'd be good to just throw together a quick half an hour. It will probably turn into 35 minutes, whatever it might be. But just to get the questions from the listeners. And I think with the timing of the team release as well, it's probably worth discussing the extended interchange that we've got, EJ. I did say I wasn't going to look at my phone, but I have to now to remember who's coming in. So the ins we've got listed. Oh, you've got them?
Yeah. RCD, Emma Rioli Jr., Gibcus, Mansell, K-Mac, Banks and Sonzi. And the outs are Pickett, injured, Arts, omitted, Ralph Smith, injured, and Miller, omitted.
Yeah, so I think we all thought that Gibcus was probably a chance to come back, but good to see Sonzi, Rioli Jr., Collier, Dawkins, Banks get their names put up. They're not sure if all will make the cut, but if you had to pick some of them, Grock, who would come in?
Obviously, if Miller's out, obviously that means that Gibcus is in, presumably, because we'd need someone with a little bit more athleticism to come in down back. I think Pickett out means McIntosh is straight back in, one wingman for another, like for like. Hugo out means either Banks or Mansell as that halfback. I mean, obviously Mansell has that exposed AFL form, and he looked good in the games that he played last year. He had a couple of moments that weren't great with his kicking, but also who can play halfback as well. So it's going to be interesting out of those two. I wouldn't mind seeing Banks, given how solid he's looked at VFL level for the past couple of weeks, although Mansell did have a great game on the weekend. And Arts, it's down to probably Sonsi or Rioli. I think Collier Dawkins did have a good game at VFL level, but again, that was only the one game, whereas Rioli and Sonsi have both had 2 or 3 good games now at VFL level. So I wouldn't mind seeing Rioli, but I want us to start getting games into Sonsi personally.
I wouldn't be shocked if Rioli's in because I think we won't do Sonsi as a sub, as a debut. Yep. I just think if Rioli has the scope to be a sub because he has played games, so it won't be as offensive, if that makes sense. It'd be interesting to see which way they go, EJ. And for the Ds, we obviously read just before that Viney and Lever are out and Ben Brown in, but the Lever out is a big one for us, especially with our forward line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Viney's out because he thought that Stack was playing. Lever out is huge because they've got that setup that we used to have when we had Rance and Grimes and whatever, where they could engineer the spare. And this may take away some of their flexibility in the way that they move around the back line. Because either May or Lever's been able to sort of, create themselves and go off their man and talk to each other. And so they're going to bring in who?
Ben Brown and Luke Dunstan, I think, is the other one.
Dunstan, right. So they haven't got a like-for-like replacement.
But they've got Tomlinson, Melksham and Smith as well.
Yeah, so there's no like-for-like for Lever. So that does leave them a little bit exposed down back.
Tomlinson has played that sort of defensive backman / wing for them from time to time. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes, but it definitely, I think, plays in our favour in some capacity. So interesting times ahead with the final selection. Now, Tiggs, I think he's going to be joining us, so he'll just jump in whenever. But viewers, this is your chance to put forward some questions to ask us, whether it's Richmond-related or football-related in general, whatever it might be, all within reason, of course, and I'll just divvy them up around the room unless there's someone specific you want to answer a question. So start sending through your questions, and we'll start palming them out. The first one I'll go to you, EJ, from Vince. Are we doing something about our midfield strength?
In what way are we doing something? Are we, as in looking forward and planning, or are we doing something now?
I reckon more personnel for the now. What can we do to strengthen that part of our game?
We could blood the kids. So, Sonsi, as Grock has said, has looked amazing in the twos. We could get rid of Arts out of the side. That automatically strengthens our midfield. He's been sort of half forward / wing, sort of where he's been a bit part player. I don't know if there's much we can do until we get Dusty back. And by reports that are starting to emanate and mail that Tiggs has had and CB has had, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back at the club next week. But realistically, I don't think the depth is there that we can immediately strengthen it.
Yeah, it's hard to find a now solution without Dusty there. He adds that extra dimension, I guess, and it allows others to play a different role. But
like someone said the other night when we were talking, how we seem to go okay up to a point, and then we just run out of gas. Like Bolton runs out of gas. And it's not that we don't have the players; it's we don't have the depth. And I think maybe that's what Vince is getting at. Getting the games into the kids. Graham's a half a game off it, as I said the other night. He's getting better. I think medium term, I think we're just going to have to put up with what we've got.
And just suck it up and see how we go.
Yep.
Oh, well, it's good exposure for the kids. You've got to do it eventually, so hopefully they can swim. At least a few of them have had some time in the VFL to learn structures. In particular, this bloke Grock, question from Jay, that he's noticed that the VFL report keeps mentioning that RCD has been focusing on the defensive part of his game. Perhaps that's why he hasn't put up big numbers. Happy that he's in. So not so much a question, but do you agree with the sentiment that the defensive side of the game is where he was lacking, and him fixing that is his ticket into the side?
Absolutely. I mean, Dimmer himself has come out and said multiple times that the reason that RCD hasn't played is that he does have some defensive deficiencies, and I've noticed over the first few rounds of VFL that he has been working on that defensive sort of midfield role. He has tried to work more on his tackling and his two-way running, and while I think that's something that he needs to do at the same time, if he's going to be a midfielder and we're getting smashed in the midfield, he needs to find the football. That's one of the biggest weaknesses that we have right now when we're getting smashed in the midfield, is that we're not getting our hands on the ball. And I don't think we have that right balance of defensive and offensive sort of transition in the midfield at the moment. Because we're getting so pumped out of the midfield, it's all just purely defensive. And when we do get the ball out of the midfield and can get it forward, we look amazing. When Cochin and Bolton are in there getting it out and getting the clearances, we look fantastic. But when we don't, that's the issue. While RCD may have been working his defensive capabilities, him coming in is not going to fix that glaring issue. If he's just been focusing on his defensive stuff, he still needs to find the football.
He does, but when he does find it, he's got a lot of offensive tool, like good weapons, breaks the lines, knows how to kick a goal on the run. So if he can string all those pieces together, I think he'll start finding he'll be playing more games like he wants to, but he's just going to get the balance.
I'm of the opinion that he probably won't be a full-time midfielder, which is what we sort of hoped for, but I wouldn't mind seeing him as that long-running sort of wing, not wingman, but half-forward, sort of a la Tivendale. You can have that short burst up the ground, then run back and take the pings from 50, because he's shown that he can do that at VFL level. RCD just bursts through and kick those goals. So
he does.
I think he'd definitely be that more half-forward type than midfield, if we're going to really be honest.
Just picking up on something that Grock just said and going back to that first question, he's talking about RCD's weakness being the fact that he hasn't been defensively. That's where I think, obviously the obvious one was Martin, but we really miss Lambert. When you talk two-way running, that adds muscle and guts to it adds defensive and offensive depth to our midfield. So when he comes back, that will make a massive difference as well.
Yep,
he is a two-way runner, and he is good both ways.
That's a good call. Yeah, his running power's hugely missed.
And a fit Prestia if he can stay uninjured. Those two are definitely our most important, yeah.
All right, EJ, what does Sydney Stack have to do to get a game? Now, I know we spoke about him on Monday as potential ins and outs. He obviously had a good game on the weekend. Where's Stacky at? A few people disappointed to not see him on this list of inclusions.
Oh, and I can understand why, because the best of Stack is it's awesome. It's great to watch, and the natural talent's unbelievable. Like, he just needs to put together a block of 3 or 4 games. He had a great game on the weekend, but it's one game. And there's been players like Sonzi, etc., that have put together multiple good weeks. You know, Grox just said that RCD's got better defensively week. Mansell's been going well. So, unfortunately, because of his transgressions, as good as he's been, he's just going to have to I don't want to say earn trust. He's just going to have to earn a few tickets before he gets his thing back. I can't wait to see him back. If he had have come in, I would have been like happy, because he's awesome. Like, I love him, and I hope he gets himself what's the word, together, like mentally together. Life. I hope he gets his life balance right, because if he gets his life balance right, we've got a 10-year footballer of very high quality.
Yeah. His best is very, very good. I agree. If he strings together a few more of those good performances in the VFL, it's going to be very hard to tell him no, really, that he's not playing. So
I think he's a little bit of his own worst enemy with his off seasons, though, where he comes back behind everyone else, you know, a bit behind the 8 ball, because he needs that 3 or 4 weeks at the start of the season to just catch up to where everyone was when they get back to the club off their preseason. So I think, you know, consistency, balance, and a little working on his professionalism, I think, are the 3 things that he really does, and then he'll be a good footballer.
Yeah, he's got
professionalism. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, professionalism. Yeah, he needs it. But no, we'll back him in. Slime, I reckon the answer to this one about why was Dimmer not in the Adelaide coaching box, was it for being inclined to put his arms out, giving away 50, or the local Vindaloo? I reckon it was the Vindaloo, is my take. I think Dimmer would love a bit of a spicy curry, and he was just on his toes, just running back and forth there. Grok, this is a really good question, because it had me absolutely stumped. Can anyone explain why Artem was attending so many centre bounces? The VFL I can understand. I can get my head around that. But when he was subbed onto the AFL, in the AFL game, I text CB straight away. I said, he's in the very first centre bounce that he's been on the ground for. And I'm not sure why we're persisting with that.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and I'm not sure myself, but it's one of those ones where he did have a couple of decent moments out of the square. He did have get his hands on the ball and feed it out for a clearance. So we knock it, but it was a little bit effective. But it's not a long-term solution. It can't be, because Arts cannot be a long-term solution in the side. Plain and simple, he cannot be. I mean, his form over the past 18 months has shown that we need to move him on. We need to replace him with someone who is going to be consistent. And yeah, I think it's probably just a matter of like injury and trying to get someone in who can run late in games. I mean, that's, as EJ said, we have been running out of gas in the last quarter. So having Arts who's zippy and has pace and can sort of do those little clever things, even though he doesn't do them often, I think that's probably the only thing, trying to find that spark to sort of get us going. But yeah, it's not a long-term solution. It can't be.
No, wouldn't have thought so. EJ, what happens with Soldo going up against 2 big rucks this week? Can't get a game, and I think a few of us thought he might have gotten a call up.
Yeah, did I see somewhere that he had an infected toe?
Oh, did he? I'm
pretty sure he had an infected toe, and he was expected to be right to train in a day or 2 and then right for the weekend. So maybe he's just not quite off it. I would have thought if there was ever a game we were going to play 2 rucks, it would be Jackson against Jackson Gorn. So I'm saying it has to be the toe, surely, because otherwise you'd have to play him against Gordon Jackson.
Yeah, there was a report that apparently an opposition player stood on his toe and twisted and sort of ripped the skin and it got infected at BFL. So that's what I've heard, but I'm not sure how true it is. But yeah, he was walking with a limp, apparently.
Okay, well, that solves that mystery, because I would love to. It was a perfect time to bring him back in too.
I agree.
All right, Grock, we know that we don't traditionally tag, but Greg would love to see Jack Graham tag Petrarca, a bit like what he did to Rory Sloane in the 2017 Grand Final. What are your thoughts?
We could try it, but we generally don't tag, and Petrarca is one of those players who's very much like Dusty in that he's inside, in and under, and he's also outside. He's very much a hybrid midfielder, and those types of players are almost impossible to tag because they can find their own ball whether you're tagging them, you're shutting them down or not. You know, you can't follow them into the bottom of a pack because if you do, you're going to give away free kick for hire in the back anyway. So he's going to get the ball, or do you just stand off and let him get it and then tackle him? And again, with our sloppy tackle technique, you might give away a free kick or a high for how the umps judge us. So yeah, I really don't see that happening because, again, with how weak our midfield is already, taking one player out to do just a purely defensive job, it's going to compound that problem where we've got one midfielder down, essentially.
We need to win our own ball. And adding further on to the Graham conversation, EJ, does he need to start winning more of his own ball as well as defensive stuff? Because this was the knock. Like when we were talking about captaincy potential, he was one of the guys floated around, but then there was a counter argument seen a lot that is he in the best 20? Is he cemented in the best 22 because of output?
Grock's nodding his head. I don't like talking bad words about my man because he's been my man since the day. My pinned tweet is on Twitter is predicting that he was going to have a big game in the grand final in 2017.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
I love him. Like I just love everything about him. He's just he does need to get more of the ball. He absolutely does. I do think he's best 22, but I don't think he's best 11. So he's in the bottom half of the 22 at the moment, and that is because of the output. I mean, you look at the stats that I look at, like the pressure acts, defensive half pressure acts, and all that sort of stuff. He would be 4 weeks out of 5. He'd be our number one pressure player, and that's great. And you're allowed to have a defensive player in your 22, but at some point, yes, I think he does need to get more of the footy.
Yeah, and it's all well and good him being a pressure player, but at the same time, you have a look at the player that he's manning, because he was supposed to be on Bailey Smith against the Dogs, who had 37. He can be a pressure player, but he also needs to be accountable as well, and that's something that I don't think he does as well as he probably should as well.
I think against the fast players, I think you're right. I think Bailey Smith was just too quick for him.
Yeah.
He runs all day, but he is one-paced.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's still building up the rest of the tank, though, from earlier on in the pre-season, I guess. But yeah, he's so dangerous, though. When he gets the ball, like he's got good goal sense too. So he's actually becomes more of another good offensive weapon if he can get his hand on it.
And he makes good decisions.
Yeah, he gets himself in good spots, and yeah.
The thing with Graham is his best games numbers-wise have been when Cochin hasn't played. I think his 3 highest disposal games have both been when he's filled Cochin's role. But the one thing that I'm sort of wondering with Graham is how is his shoulder, if he does take over Cochin's role as that inside mid sort of next year when Cochin's gone, how are his shoulders going to hold up? He's already had shoulder injuries. Now, if that bash and crash type mid, if he does transition, how are the shoulders going to hold up? He pops them out frequently these days, just in regular contests. So, not sure how that's going to work going forward.
Bit of masking tape, strap him up, get him out there. He'll be all right.
PT tape, yeah.
Grock, very good observation from Nick that we've given up the corridor in all of our games, and I was frighteningly alarmed watching the Bulldogs game live how many plays they had standing in the middle of the ground. is that coming down to our two-way running problem that we've spoken about with the absence of people like Lambert and Prestius Fitness trying to get back up to the certain levels?
I think that's part of it. I also think that we generally tend to defend one side of the ground, and we hedge our bets. We'll leave 2 or 3 players on the other side, but then we'll transition to the half of the ground that the opposition are trying to kick to. And at times that works, and at times it doesn't, especially the times that they switch. When they switch, we're outnumbered because the teams switch quicker. And it was evident against St Kilda. We'd defend the narrow side of the ground, and then the St Kilda players would switch, and their spread on the switch was so much faster than ours. It just seemed we were like that 1 second too slow to react, and it just seems that way throughout the games. We're just that slightly too slow to react to the switches or those inboard kicks into the corridor. But it's something that I've particularly been saying week in, week out is we need to change the way that we're defending these days because it's not working. We can't defend the long kick anymore because teams are carving us up with those short kicks either up the ground or through the midfield. So I think the time is... Yeah, look, we're sitting way too deep. We need to start pushing up and not push 90% of the side off to one wing, so to speak. Keep the ground defended, but don't commit too many to the contest, which is a cardinal sin and something that we keep doing, and it's just not working.
It's they've got to find that balancing act, don't they? Like without being overly aggressive and staying too high, but you can't play ultra deep because the Bulldogs. I know we beat them, but the Bulldogs at various stages were just doing 25-meter slicing kicks all the way up the ground to 60 meters out, and then got it inside 50. It's like that's not a sustainable way to defend a game of football.
No.
All right, the $1 million question. Oh, sorry, go.
And that short kicking has been a thorn in our side ever since the stand rule came in last year. Yeah. Like it's been obvious that if you go back and watch every game that we've lost it because teams have retained possession via short kicking, and it's amazing how they haven't even tweaked something even slightly to try and counteract that.
Yeah, it just hurts. You can't play a turnover game if you're giving them uncontested possession.
Exactly.
All right, EJ, with no Soldo because of the toe and just Nank doing the heavy grunt work, how do we stop Gawn and Jackson? Because I think it stands to reason that Gawn's probably going to out-ruck Nank. As much as we love Nank Irvis, from a pure height and tapability perspective, he's probably got him covered. Whereas, ironically, Bolter may be able to jump over him in some instances, potentially. But how is this going to play out for us? What's the key?
I get the easy ones, don't I? So I'm assuming that firearms are illegal.
Yeah, well, let's assume that for the sake of the question.
Although, to be fair, go on. I was going to say, to be fair, it looked like there was a sniper in the crowd in the Hawthorn Geelong game when Tom Hawkins went down.
Oh, how about the AFL saying that, yes, we know he acted, but he didn't act enough to get it. Anyway, that's another subject. If I was looking at this, what I would be doing is when Gawn was rucking, I would ruck Nank. When Jackson was rucking, I would ruck Bolter. Now,
agree.
They're probably both not quite a match, but they're as good as we've got. If we do it the other way around, I don't think it would lose too much in the Bolter Gawn, but I think that Jackson would destroy Nank on spread from the contest. As good as we love Nank around the ground, and we know he's an extra midfielder when it hits the deck and all that sort of stuff, on the spread, he'd get carved up. And on the spread, that's the concern with both of these guys versus our guys, more so with Nank than Bolter. But that's the way I'd pair up the rucks as best I could. That's the way that I'd do it. But I don't think we can stop them. I think the thing is we've got to minimise them.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if Lynch and Riewoldt play a role around the ground ruck work like they kind of did last week, and the week before, which kind of seemed to be effective in some stages. But I don't think they can do it against Gawn. I think that's a waste. Their only chances to really do that against Jackson, but sometimes matchups may not let that occur. So, but yeah, it's going to be trying to curve their influence. It definitely is just the only way to really stop it. Grok, what do you think the chances are of the fitness of the team catching up to getting to the level we need it to be at before the season gets out of reach? So timing of the run to get fit, it's always that $1 million question is the conditioning stuff, I imagine. Who've got it.
We're definitely off the pace fitness-wise, and I don't think anyone can disagree with that with how we're running games out. I mean, it's the late third, early fourth where the damage is being done, and again, that's usually down to fitness.
Is that a concern, though, given that this is now the first time we've had an extended pre-season for quite some time? Like, you would have thought we should have been the opposite.
Absolutely, and I think just nature of the team, with our aging stars are starting to slow down. I mean, and we're starting to filter in the younger players who are having to take more of the workload and step up. So that's going to tire them out as well. So I think that the fitness levels, I think it's just the natural evolution of the reality of where our list sits right now. In terms of in terms of the fitness getting up to the scratch, I think there's every chance that that'll happen. But again, is it going to be too late? The only positive note that I hold is we made finals from 3 and 10. So unless we're 3 and 11, I'm not going to cross out the season.
We've got a big month of football after the Melbourne game. Our season will be determined not by the Melbourne game, but by the 4 weeks after it.
Absolutely.
We've got the Eagles, the Pies, the Hawks, and the Bombers. That's a good run. If we, with these changes, maybe there's niggles and they're resting this and trying that or whatever. But if we get through this Melbourne game, if we can go 3-1 or 4-0 in the 4 games after that, we're right.
You're back in the hunt.
Yep. The next 4 games after the Melbourne game are huge.
And we know, we all know, with a club that Dimmer does like to talk about things in 4-game blocks. So no doubt he's probably got the exact same mindset as you there, EJ. It's one to keep an eye out on. But I mean, it'd be even better if we can somehow jag the win this week as well to kickstart us. But if we get a few faces back, because Dusty, for all we know, is going to reappear in this next block of 4 too. So that's hopefully going to be another handy addition. EJ, I think we're up to you with this one. Looking into the future, I guess, with the crystal ball, RCD and Sonzi, have they got scope to share that midfield and forward flank role like what Edwards has been doing all his career?
On what I've seen from them, absolutely. I think, though, that this year is make or break for RCD. I'm going to say before he's played a game, I think Sonzi's going to make it. I really like everything about him. I know there was a few knocks on him, which is, I know, and he slid, and I know we were happy to get him where we did. I think he's got all the tricks, Sonzi. I think he's showed a lot of tricks already. So I think that mid-forward role is perfect for him. I don't know if it's going to be with RCD, though.
I know we've said it a few times, but he was at one point touted as the number 1 or number 1 to 3 pick. Like, that doesn't just happen by fluke. You obviously have to have a bit of talent.
Yeah.
And clubs,
questions on his attitude?
I think so. Like, that seems to be a thing that scares a lot of clubs off these days. They're not prepared to take the risk because it's a high-end draft pick. If it busts, then, But I think we're the kind of club that back our culture and to still get the most out of those players and give them the opportunity. And from what he's shown in the VFL so far, I think a lot of clubs are going to be kicking themselves that they overlooked him.
So what do you guys think about RCD and this idea? Do you think he's going to make it?
Is it 4 years now?
27, was it 2017 that he was drafted? 2018. So
I think as a club, I think the club believes he'll still make it because they've held on. Like, there was plenty of opportunity to move him on because of lack of output. But I think they're kind of committed to the cause now. They've put so much development and time into him that I think they feel like he's going to be able to repay them once it clicks. Because, offensively, I reckon he's a great weapon. And if they just need him to be defensively a bit better, then hopefully he can get that up to scratch.
I mean, worst comes to worst, I wouldn't mind seeing him playing as a third, as that medium marking forward, sort of like Lids. He's got very similar athletic traits to Lids, and Lids was a weapon up forward. So even chucking him in the, in a pocket and saying, "Hey, look, present, offer a lead, do what you can." I think even then that might be more his go. But with Sonzi, apparently the attitude wasn't necessarily a negative one. It's apparently he's a very self-confident is word that was floating around. That rubbed a few people the wrong way in interviews. They thought he was arrogant. So
I think
it was that.
Really, if we're being honest, to play AFL, you kind of have to have a bit of that about you, though. Really, you've got to believe that you're good enough.
Some people thought Dusty was arrogant. Like, you sort of need that to be like, "Hey, look, I can do this." You need that
I get there's probably a bit of a balance when you're interviewing for clubs, but if he was being himself, then good on him. And if we're going to benefit from it, then up everyone else. Grock, Castain is probably the most maligned player for us at the moment. There's always talks to get him out of the side, but I feel like, I don't know whether I'm in the minority, but I feel like this year he's performed at a really good level, kicking goals most games. His pressure's been good. I know he can spray the odd kick here and there, but I mean, really, who doesn't? What's the knock on him? How have you rated his year?
He's had a solid year without impacting the scoreboard as much as we'd sort of expect from him. The knock on George is and always has been his kicking. And I've got a love-hate relationship with George ever since the 2019 grand final, where same game multi. I needed him for one goal for $1,500, and he kicked 0-5 and won on the full. So his kicking is his biggest weakness, and I've always believed that if he could tighten that up with how creative he is and how good he is at actually finding space up forward and popping up for the mark, or just that creative forward craft, he'd be a 30+ goal forward easily.
Yeah,
it's just that kicking, and he can be a little selfish. That's the only other thing that I will say. There's quite often where he'll take the ping at goal where he's no shot when we've got players in a much better spot. I think those two things.
He does find confidence in himself. I reckon he does it to try and get himself running, but it's still the wrong decision.
Absolutely. You might get more out of impact a game passing to a teammate that is probably 90% chance to kick it than you kicking that 30%, 25% miraculous goal. I think, and that's something that Jack spouts especially, is when he's having a bad game, he tries to get others involved as well, because he's still getting involved. Yeah. And it's leading to the team as well. So I think just his kicking, his finishing, and just knocking out that little selfishness from time to time, I think they're the biggest knocks.
But I think he is best 22.
I think so at the moment, yeah.
At the moment, yeah.
All right, we'll do a few more. We might do another 7 minutes worth. But look who's here. It's Sleeping Beauty 71. How are you, mate? You had a nap and you've just woken up 2 hours later. Welcome.
What a dick, mate. What a dick I am. No, I'm 50 now and had a hard day at work. So I said to my youngest son, I said, look, because Michelle, she didn't come home till very late. And I said, look, let me sleep until about 6. Wake me up. And I just slept right through. And I was just fucking bolt out of bed. What the fuck? What's the time it is? And yeah, look, I really apologise. At least I love you. I've got on now. Haven't done my hair for the show. Haven't shaved. Fucking hell.
All good. I'll get you straight into it then, Tiggs. We're just doing the last few questions.
This will be his favourite question.
Why is Ross persistently played as a winger?
Well, look, my thoughts on that is he's got some photos of Hardwick. Look, to be honest with you, I don't know. That's obviously the coaches have seen something in his GPS maybe. He's not well endowed with speed. He's not well endowed with elite disposal or even a very long kick. That normally are the traits that you want for a winger. But maybe they see something that we don't. That's why they get paid the big bucks and we see you do podcasts. That's basically the best I can give.
Yeah, he has to play inside mid for me. But
yeah. You know what I like him for? You know what I like him as? You know how Caddy's just for some reason we just burnt him off? I wouldn't have minded him getting a try at least as a pressure medium. I'm not saying he hasn't shown he's got great hands or anything, but he's a big enough body. He does chase when it's in his vicinity. It's a simple role. You know, if the ball comes in the forward line, just, tackle and see what would have happened with him with that. But, no, we decided to try and win.
It's just how we roll. EJ, I'm not sure if another easy one or not. What are your thoughts on the running separation / patterns of Lynch, Bolter, and Riewoldt? It's obviously a big talking point with how do we fit all three into the forward line and if it's doable.
All right. I don't feel qualified to answer this question because I haven't been to a game this year. I'm not getting to a game until I go to Collingwood, and I see a lot more of this sort of stuff when I'm at the ground. So if someone's been to games this year, I reckon they're better off stepping in and answering this.
Yeah,
Grock, do you have any thoughts?
I've been to 2 games this year so far, and I think the separation running positions, Lynch and Bolter are fine. They're 2 different players. Lynch is that stay at home, Bolter's the lead. That's great. Jack and Bolter is great. Again, same thing. Jack stays at home deep, Bolter pushes up. The issue that we have with them is Lynch and Jack, because they're 2 very similar players in that regard these days, where they are relying on contesting, and quite often we do see them both go up for the same contest. And there have been quite a few times where they sort of knocked into each other and allowed the opposition to take that easy mark because they've knocked each other out of the contest. So I think two of the 3 are great. It's just, I think Lynch, and I think a lot of it has to do with that pressure for the contract that he's on and a lot of the criticisms that he needs to lift. I do think he tries to impact contests probably when he shouldn't. But yeah, I think it's looked a lot better than it did. It looked a lot better this year than it has over the past couple of years, which is a good sign. I think David Teague's done wonders with our forward structure so far. It has looked a little bit more dangerous when the ball's gone in compared to the last few years. But yeah, I still think there's some issues that need to be worked out with the 3 of them if we're going to persist with it.
On David Teague, I did see a tweet today. I think he maybe was at a Club 80 function the other night, and very, very highly regarded, and with the way he spoke and how much of an asset he is to the club. So that's good to hear those reaffirming comments from fellow supporters. This one's not so much a question, but is this right, Nick? Has anyone else here heard this? That Gibcus told the drafters the ceiling was not high enough to show his leap. That's a bit odd, Gibcus, if he's gone with that.
And we were talking about Sonzi being overconfident.
It was actually during the vertical leap testing, and he goes, "I hope the roof's big enough." Well, I hope the roof's tall enough.
What I actually heard, and this is from someone that was actually there, he actually hit the roof. The roof was not high enough for him, and that's how that started.
The first one wasn't tall enough. The indoor one.
So they had to move it so he could get full clearance up.
Yeah. Right. So there's okay. There's a bit of substance to it.
Yeah, he's actually confirmed that story himself when he was interviewed. There's a video going around. I think it was the draftee night, and he had a bit of a chuckle when he was asked about it, and confirmed the story. So
that's very good.
Yeah.
I might get everyone's thoughts on this next one, starting with you, Tiggs. Will Maurice Rioli Jr. be a better midfielder than a forward? I suppose, ultimately, where do you see his best position?
Well, it's hard to... At the moment, he hasn't got the tank to play midfield, though his tank is getting better. He's got... Well, it's hard to say because we haven't seen him enough of him in the midfield, but he's got AFL traits. And that translates to the midfield in the sense of his repeat efforts. He goes 1, 2, or 3 times. His quick hands. Because he's of his size, he's like pressure from hand to foot's really quick. So if he's under pressure, he can kick the ball and release it. But in saying all that, I wouldn't be surprised. I reckon he's a better forward at the moment because of his age and his lack of experience. And then like Shea Bolton was when we did see. I'm getting there.
Very good.
Shea Bolton. when he first started, we really put him in the forward pocket, get him to get the feel or the balance of the game, and then he graduated to the midfield.
Grock?
Yeah, long term, I do see him as a midfielder. I think he's just too crafty, too creative, and too skillful to be wasted in a sort of defensive forward role a la George. I think, long term, I do see him as a midfielder. Right now, I think he could go through there in spurts. Sort of like if Arts can go through the midfield right now, Rioli certainly can. So long term, I see Rioli as a midfielder. I see him as the direct replacement for Sheds. I've mentioned it on the podcast a couple of times now that I do believe he's that sort of Shedder replacement with his craftiness and his skills, because he's fantastic in traffic as well with his handballing. So yeah, I do believe he'll be our Shedder replacement long term.
And EJ rounding us out.
Yeah, not much more to add. Say for the next 2 to 4 years, probably more half forward, gradually transitioning more and more into the midfield. Long term, for the last sort of 8 years of his career, if he has a long career, will be midfield, I think.
Can I ask a question? Obviously, you guys have been doing this for 41 minutes, so if we don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. We can, unfortunately, we have to go have a nap. Won't happen again. But have we spoken about the ins for this game? Have we given our thoughts about the ins?
We did. We'll grab you. We were trying to waste some time for you to wake up, but it didn't work.
I apologise. Fucking SMS me. Call me, Michaels. Just call me.
I was meant
to phone call.
That's where you do it. You put it on loudspeaker for everyone to enjoy.
That's true. I could have done that actually.
You could have done that, mate. You could have done that.
What are your thoughts on the ins and outs?
Well, last podcast when we were talking about the Melbourne game, I said let's play to our strengths, and I think he's doing that in the sense of the personnel that we've brought in. Look, Miller, I love Miller, right? And I don't think he's done much wrong. But at the stage of his career, they've got to bring in Brown, which we've got to match up with him with Tarrant, which is a little bit worrisome because Brown is very quick off the lead and Tarrant is quite slow. But hopefully that's just watching him on TV. It's different in real time. We've got Broad that will go on Finch, or whatever that other dude's name is. But other than that, our midfielders match up really well with them. Where we can get them is their back line. They don't have lever, right? We haven't removed Lynch, we haven't removed Jack, and we haven't removed Bolter, right? So this is a good game to stretch them early and then surround those three tools with pace and tackling pace, right? So we've got that with Morris Rioli Jr. I can see Banks losing his freaking mind, though. He's a backman. I can see him, playing with hunger. Sonsi's the one I'm excited for. They've got Petrarca. I reckon put him on an Oliver, put him on a Petrarca, make him play a negating role that we did with Jack Graham with in the grand final with
that was one of the questions.
Yeah, give him a learning experience by tagging someone of note, you know what I mean? And with encouragement to run off him and use his strength. So that excites me. Mansell needed to come in, 100% needed to come in. And, yeah, we've got Gibcus too, height and speed. Look, the one I'm a little bit worried about, RCD, look, this is his game. This is a game where he can make his reputation. I don't say we have to win the game, but for his football, if he's penetrating in his kicking, his disciplined running back, two-way running, supporting pressure, supporting Cochin, he could really find this sets up his year. I'm a really big believer in that. Coaches get sucked into players that respond in big moments. And if you do a cracking game in a big game, even if your team loses, they will give you credits in the bank to play the next week and the week after that. And that's your chance to cement. So fingers crossed. I'm pretty excited. I never want to see Arts again unless we've smashed with injury. Ralph Smith, that shows how corrupt, gut punched, not even MRO, and he's out for another week because of the hit. But everyone wants to talk about Cochin. Pickett's my worry on the wing.
Can anyone tell us what his injury is?
They said he just did a strain. Is that right? A strain? That's what I heard was a strain.
It's a strain. They just take the precaution. They don't want to risk
it's precautionary.
Right, okay.
I'm wondering if that's what we've got Banks for. Because Banks is a wing. It was a winger as a junior, played halfback wing. He's got a penetrating kick. He loves to play outside and kick into the corridor, which is our sort of style. He did that naturally as a junior. So, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know you.
And can I just say, he's up on the stack. He's got to. Some people on Twitter are losing their fucking minds. Look, he's had one good game. One. Let him cement a month of good footy, then bring him in. Because I'll tell you what, we haven't put Lambert in. And Lambert's actually had 2 better games than Stack he's won. So, yeah, Stack's just still. I have faith in Stack. I reckon he could be a 3-4 year player for us if the penny drops for him and he starts really cracking in. But, yeah, he's still got work to do.
Yeah, I mean, even though Lever is out and you mentioned, their backline's not great, they do have Tomlinson coming back in who played on Jack last year and did really well on Jack, kept him pretty quiet. And Jack I think he got the last 2 goals of the game and finished with 2-2. So
I think Bolter has to become a weapon.
Absolutely. Bolter, this is a game where Bolter does need to step up. Bolter needs to be the one that's providing that option, I think. Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much.
That surprised me. Soldo, I thought they would have gone 2 rucks to...
I think it was flagged.
No,
he was flagged with a toe injury. He was in hospital today with a toe injury.
Yeah, but he came out. Didn't he come out today?
Mustn't be right though.
Yeah. Okay. Are you sure you haven't watched this? You're covering all the topics that we've already covered.
You've done really well.
We all think alike, don't we?
We do. It's eerily similar. It's good.
Oh, you got me. No, seriously. I watched
you guys. You didn't want to come on.
Took me 30 minutes.
I'll thank you for everyone for sending through questions. The only last one I'll ask, firstly, to everyone, has your tip and margin changed on the back of seeing the ins and outs? EJ, or you? I know I can't recall what we all said, but
I said Demons by 37.
Yeah,
do you stand by that, or does it change things?
Demons by 24.
Okay. Grok, is yours changed?
Yeah, Demons. I was Demons by 41. I thought it was going to get ugly. I still think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for the D's. So I'm going to drop it by a goal, 35.
Tiggs, is yours changed?
No, I'm staying. What was mine, a 20-something point win or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty bullish with we've injected hunger, and the ability to prove yourself. With those kids,
it's definitely piqued my interest as well. Yeah. Not sure if it's enough to flip the result to our way, but I think it'll definitely be a lot closer. The problem I think we'll have is with the young kids, we might run out of gas a bit later on. But look, they're going to have a crack, that's for sure. So the last one, Tiggs, people kept putting in here. Did you get clearance to mention a name?
No, not yet, but I will soon. I'll be honest, I did fall asleep. I did fell asleep. I will have something no later than the next podcast, trust me. I just want to verify something else that I've heard. And I'll just go, I'll give you the latest of what I've heard in the market. So it might not be a trade. It's not enough content yet to be a trade show, but I'll probably waff off a couple of leads and just take it as that leads, right? Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's names that will come up in the media because a couple of them haven't come up yet, but they will.
I just got something. My sources tell me that your clearance came through, but you slept through it.
Like, oh, no. No, I think you're wrong. What? The CB text you too. He's where I get all my mail. No, I haven't. And look, just explain it, guys. It's not me being a smart ass. It is that I'm fortunate to have a little window, even though I'm not in that circle, is because I keep my word. I'm old school, right? And they know I do. And look, trust me, they feed it to me because they want it out there. But it's, I like to, I'm not going to, mate, I want to tell you blokes. But I can't. I've got to wait till 100% I can't. I hope you understand. But people that follow this thing know I'm not grandstanding. It's how I always do it. If I get the okay, I'm good to go.
Yeah. No, it's always respect that. That's fine.
Wait, I've got one question before we go.
Yeah.
Just Dimmer's press conference today. Did anyone manage to catch what was mentioned on that? Dimmer saying that we need to... Basically, he had a bit of a crack at the umpiring, and he said that we need to start coaching our players how to better draw free kicks or something like that. Yeah, he really had a crack at the umpiring, that we need to have direct our players how to sort of milk those free kicks. I think he wasn't too happy with the Adelaide game. What did you guys think of that comment?
Well, he went off the back of that Western Bulldogs that was brooking himself off in the media, saying, "Oh yeah, no, it's a skill set. It's not a flop. I know when to, leave the ball and just go to grab it when I'm about to be tackled." Basically, if I was an umpire going, "Okay, you're just basically taking the piss, and we're falling into the trap." So Dim has obviously heard that and has gone, "You know what? That's what we need to treat our players to do because it's getting beyond the joke." They would have had to have done something formal complaint in the background. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if you guys have, but they would have. Particularly, I know one thing I do know, Hugo, what happened to Hugo on the weekend, not even to be cited or looked at, and all the heat that was on Cochin, the club wasn't happy about that at all. That's all they were at pains to mention he's out for a bruised rib. If it wasn't because he got hit, they would have said just general soreness. So trust me, Adelaide, there's fucking on our side. I wouldn't want to play them. If we get any of a semblance back to form, I can't wait till our next game against them, to be honest with you.
Koch will be a man possessed. Can you imagine how much he's going to hunt Tex Walker down? It would be good for a laugh.
I love to tweet, though. I tweeted. I went in defence mode, right? And I love all the community, mate. They all supported. Some flog tweeted, my young kid at Auskick.
I'd see that, yeah.
Because he's going to get kicked, right? So I just texted him. I go, "Look, sorry, mate, I want to cheer up your son." I tweeted him.
But yeah, the comments about Tex, if I had done that, I'd be copping a month. Piss off, Flog. You think that what Cochin did's 2/3 as bad as racially abusing a team, someone else? Like, get off it, mate. Like,
I think that because he got done for racism and he feels. That proves he felt hard done by. Or anyone else probably would have got a week, but I got, 6-8 weeks. Ridiculous. That's why he gobbed off like that, the prick.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good day on Twitter as well. It was just good baiting a few people and tagged you guys in a couple of different ones. That was good fun. All right, thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday night, and thank you to everyone for sending through your questions. Much appreciated. But we will try and make sure we do answer the questions on the Monday night show to make it flow. But we do value everyone's input and questions because it's all about you guys. We do this show for you. So thanks for chipping in with your questions and tuning in on a Thursday night. And hopefully we can get the win on Sunday and come back Monday night as happy campers.
And to make it up, guys, please tune in Monday. Spread the word. I will share what I've heard. Some of it will be really raw, but I can 100% tell you everyone I've heard it from, I believe. So I will 100% share it. One way also to say sorry for being so exhausted from work. But I had a nap. I can't believe I had a nap.
You're not going to live that one down. That's going to stick for a while.
And Elton, the Collingwood game, mate, if you need members' seats, just let me know. I've got a membership card a code that I can let you use.
To get because you go into the Collingwood Richmond game.
Yeah. So if I'll give you the code.
Magpie71. Thanks for your time, Grock. Elton John, thank you for coming on, mate. Tiggs, thanks for joining us when you joined Napper71, Sleepy71. This is going to be great content going forward. Well done, everyone.
I'm just waiting for huge Dick 71.
You won't get that, I can
it's
assure
funny
you.
because you dropped the well endowed several times.
Thank you for your time, gents, and we'll reassess Monday and see how we go. Hopefully it's on the back of a Tiger win, and we just hope that we give it a crack and we'll see what happens. So enjoy your weekend, everyone. Enjoy the footy and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.